and welcome to Kids Mind, where we laugh, we learn, and we explore. I am your teacher, Patricia, and today we are going to listen to what? Yes, it's time for Bible story. Make sure you have your notebook, your pen, and of course what? Yes, your Bible. Are you ready? So kids, before we start, don't forget to follow us at our social media at GPS TV Africa, or you can SMS us on 21144. On where? 21144. Okay kids, are you ready? I can't hear you. Are you ready? Great! Today we are going to learn about a story about a widow of Zarephath. Now kids, there was a king who was called King Ahab. Now, King Ahab, together with the people, they turned away from the God of Israel. King Ahab, together with the people, they turned away from the God of Israel, and they started worshipping other gods. And now, even when there was a problem, King Ahab ran to the prophets of Baal. These other gods they started worshipping. And now, because of this, God was so angry. He was so angry. Why? Because they turned away from the true God and they started worshipping what? False gods. So he sent his prophet Elijah and said, Elijah, my prophet, go to Ahab the king and tell him, the Lord has said there will be no rain. There will be no even a drop of dew in Israel until what? Until at the word of Elijah, the rain will come back. So Elijah went to the king and he said, knock, knock, knock. Your Majesty, I am Prophet Elijah, and the Lord has sent me to deliver what? A message. And what was the message? In the land of Israel, there will be no rain for a period of 3 years. Now, because there was no rain, there arose what? A very, very great famine. The people still, even though there was no rain and they started having no food, they did not what? Turn to God. So God spoke again to Elijah. Today I want us to look at 1 Kings chapter 17 from verse 8 to 13 and find out what did God say to his servant Elijah. Let us look at 1 Kings chapter 17 from verse 8. Are you ready? Are you there? Okay, let's read together and I'll read. Then the word of the Lord came to him saying, Arise, go to Zarephath, which belongs to Sidon, and dwell there. See, I have commanded a widow there to provide for you. So he arose and went to Zarephath. And when he came to the gate of the city, indeed a widow was there gathering sticks. And he called to her and said, Please bring me a little water in a cup, and that I may drink. And as she was going to get it, he called her and said, Please bring me a morsel of bread in your hand. So she said, As the Lord your God lives, I do not have bread, only a handful of flour in a bin, and a little oil in a jar. And see, I am gathering a couple of sticks, that I may go in and prepare it for myself and my son, that we may eat it and die. And Elijah said to her, Do not fear. Go and do as you have said, but make me a small cake from it first, and bring it to me, and afterward make some for yourself and your son. So we have read until verse 13. So we can see this story about the widow of Zarephath. There was a great famine. Everyone, do you know what is a famine? When there is no rain, and then crops stop growing, and then there is no harvest, food becomes short, so people are not able to eat well. Even sometimes they are not able to eat at all. So because of the famine, because God was so angry, he had sent a command through Elijah. And what did he say? Because you have turned away from the true God and are worshipping other gods, there will be no rain for 3 years until at the word of who? Elijah. So God prepared what? Prepared how his prophet Elijah will live during this time of famine. Okay? First he sent ravens. He sent him at a brook. And when he went at this brook, there was water. And also he was sending what? He was sending ravens to feed what? To feed his prophet. But then because of the drought, then the brook also dried out. That is when the word of the Lord came to Elijah again. It came to Elijah when? Again. So when the Lord spoke to Elijah again, he commanded him, go and you will find what? A widow in Zarephath. And there I have prepared for you. So when he went, he found this widow. And everyone, was this widow so wealthy according to our story? No. This widow also, because of the famine, she was only left with a little flour in the bin and what? Just a little oil in the jar. And then the prophet of God comes to her and says what? A widow, go bring me water to drink. And before even she went to bring the water, the prophet called her again. Oh, excuse me, madam, come back. Also, when you're bringing me water, give me what? Prepare for me a bread to what? To eat. And then she said, what did she say in verse 12? She said like this in verse 12. So she said, as the Lord your God lives, I do not have bread, only a handful of flour in bin. Can you imagine? A handful of flour, everyone, is like this. A handful, you understand? So only a handful of flour and a little oil in the jar. And see, I'm gathering little stick, a few sticks. The flour even doesn't need a lot of stick to cook because it's just so little, barely enough for her and her son. But she's telling Elijah, I do not have bread, but I'm gathering stick so that I may eat and also my son may eat. And then after that, actually, they were preparing what? To die. Because there was no hope, there was no food, and then what else? They had no any other way. Everyone, can you imagine the famine? It was so severe, right? But it is so strange. The prophet was telling her what? Madam, prepare for me first. Everyone, if you are left with your just last maybe lunch, and someone else is telling you, first you give me your lunch box, I eat first, okay? And you know you are not going to get lunch elsewhere. How is your heart? How is your heart, everyone? Oh, very good. Someone said, very difficult. Another one is saying what? No way. Right? Yeah, if you know I'm not going to get any other food, my heart may be like, what about me? If I give you my only lunch box, what am I going to do? I'm also so hungry. Right? We are in the same situation because the widow of the Zarephath was so hungry, but the prophet of God was telling him what? Prepare for me first, and then after you prepare for me, okay, that I may eat and die. But verse 13 is saying what? And Elijah said to her, do not fear. Don't be afraid that if I eat, you won't be eating as well, but go do as you have said, but make me a small cake from it first. Okay? He's saying, don't worry. Someone is telling you, everyone, don't worry. Give me your lunchbox first and do as you have said. What did she say? I may eat with my son and die, right? But before she eats, Elijah is instructing her what? First, you give to me. You prepare a cake for me. So the widow of Zarephath, even though she was like, this man, he seems to have a voice of like very assurity and command, right? Prepare for me first, authority, right? And then you may do likewise to your son. So the widow of Zarephath, even though she had a very heavy heart, even though she was getting this heart, what about my son? My son is starving. What do you mean? He's a child. You are a grown-up, okay? She had to do what? She had to forget all about her voice and her thought, and also she had to put down her what? Her burden and her difficult, and first only hear the word of who? Yes, only hear the word of the prophet. Then she went in. And then her son was so hungry, and then even his eyes were starting to just like sink. His cheeks were so sunken because he could not eat very well because of the famine. But she was preparing in a pot. She put some oil and she was preparing and just looking at her son. But she was like, let me just do as he says. So she was preparing the bread for the prophet Elijah. Then when she was done, she took what? She took the bread to the prophet. The man of God, here is a little cake for you. So Elijah received the bread with a gentle smile and a thankful heart. He received the bread. I'm so thankful. She could what? She could obey the voice of the Lord. So when she took the bread to Elijah, then she went back, because she only made that bread, right, with that flour, because it was only a handful, right? Then she went back and opened what? The flour bin, okay? Then when she opened the flour bin, to her surprise, to her amusement, there was still what? Flour in the bin. And then when she went, she took the flour. And her son was like, Mom, so what? Is it going to be enough for us also? She said, my son, it is more than enough. Because what? God has also worked for what? For the widow of Zarephath. Because she obeyed the word of who? Whose word did she obey? Yes, the word of the Lord through the prophet. Then she went and made cake. With what? For herself and her son. And she was so thankful. And as she was making the cake for herself and her son, through this, her faith started to do what? To grow as she continued to eat from the jar of oil and also from the bin of flour. Everyone. When Elijah went to the widow of Zarephath, okay? The widow of Zarephath only received the word of Elijah by what? By faith. Everyone say by faith. Yes, the widow, even though she could not see how the flour will be able to make also for herself and her son, even though she had so many thoughts, and also she had, of course, genuine and valid reasons why she should not first make for Elijah but for her son, she just received for the word of Elijah by faith. Okay, let me just prepare for the man of God first, and then I'll do the same as well for me and my son. According to what? According to the word of Elijah. And then when Elijah received this what? This bread, and also the widow of Zarephath was able to see how God worked for her and her son, that they continued to eat bread, and the oil of jar was still having oil and the bin was still having bin. She started perceiving this Elijah not just as a man of God, but as a person who was sent by God to bring what? To bring hope in her life, and also to bring what? To bring life. You understand, everyone? Yes, this widow of Zarephath, even her heart was able to change. This man was sent by God to bring us hope and to bring us what? Life. Why? Why am I saying to bring life? Remember, everyone, in verse 12, the widow of Zarephath told the man of God, the oil and the flour that is remaining in the bin, we are just going to prepare for me and my son, and then we do what, everyone? Good. Then you are following very well. Great job, everyone. Yes, we are going to prepare a bread. I'm going to prepare a bread for me and my son. Then also we are going to do what? Eat and die. Let's look at verse 12 together. He said what? So she said, as the Lord your God lives, I do not have bread, only a handful of flour in a bin and a little oil in a jar. And see, I am gathering a couple of sticks that I may go in and prepare it for myself and my son, that we may eat. Everyone, let's read together. That we may eat and die. That we may eat and do what? Yes, this widow of Zarephath, she had no hope. And then, even though she prepared the bread for herself and her son, the end result was for what? To die, everyone, right? There was no any other way for them. But when Elijah, the prophet, came, and she was able to receive the word of Elijah the way it is, Elijah brought hope and what? And life. They continued to live because what? She obeyed the voice of what? The servant of God. Likewise, everyone. Even us, right? Even us, that is the same way God has done for us. Yes, remember, everyone, all the teachers through kids' minds, they have been able to teach us that we were what? We were sinners because we were the children of Adam. And when we look at Romans chapter 5, verse 12, the book of Romans chapter 5, yes, verse 12. Let's look at Romans chapter 5, verse 12. It's saying this. Therefore, just as through one man sin entered the world, and death through sin, and thus death spread to all men, because all have sinned. So, everyone, even us, the same way. Because of sin, we were like this widow of Zarephath. We were dead in sin. But what did God do? God sent His only begotten Son, and He came and He gave us what? Life, right? According to John chapter 3, verse 16. It says, for God so loved the world that He gave what? His only begotten Son, that whoever believes in Him should not do what? Should not perish, but have what? Have everlasting life. Yes, everyone. Just like the way Elijah was sent by God to bring hope and life to this widow of Zarephath, even in the same way, Jesus came, He brought us life, and He brought us what? Hope. Yes? Yes, He brought us hope, and now we have great hope that we all will meet where? We will all go to heaven, right? Everyone, do you have the same hope? Yes, I am so happy today you are here to share our Bible story. So everyone, as you meditate during this week, meditate on John 3 verse 16. Don't forget to follow us at GBS TV Africa, or you can SMS us at 21144. GBS everywhere, right? So we will see each other next time. See you.